Guys, but just a little bit of a background on me. That's not what you guys said about 10 years ago, and I statistically had everything going for me. I was a straight A student, I was an Eagle Scout, and National Honor Society, AP classes, everything statistically that's said that I should have been made for making the right choices, but I still made the wrong choices. So that's kind of why I'm here today and what made me want to do this. I just wanted to actually dive into with my own curiosity to see why did I mess up. And not only once, but why did I mess up twice? And I kind of came to the conclusion because, like I said, I set where you guys set 10 years ago, and we had the hitman from 93.5 come in and talk to our school, and he relayed his personal story of drunk driving. And I remember that. After my first incident, I remember that. After the second incident, I said, you know what, I need to do something about this. And I determined that, maybe people didn't connect with him. Maybe I just kind of put him in the back of my head because he was so much older than me. He's like, because I've been where you guys sit. You have someone come in and you speak, and they're speaking, and you're thinking, yeah, you're saying that now, but that was 30 years ago. Probably 30 years ago, you thought it was a great idea, and you still go back and party and everything. But I'm here to tell you, I'm pretty close in age to you guys. I'm almost 25, and I already regret the decisions I made. And so anyway, it all boils down to about, say, a year and a half of just 1 year and a half. If you take that part out of my life, everything else wouldn't have been all rosy, but it would have been fine in terms of legally and financially and everything. All these problems that came with just one DUI that just kept blowing over. And so that year and a half of my life, you can blame it on KU. I went to KU that night. I was at K-State at the time. And, I drove fine all the way home. And I made it to about 5 miles outside K-State, and I just fell asleep. And that boiled over into my second DUI about, say, a year later, I think, roughly a year later. And so I took the diversion on the first one, but once you get a second one, that first one comes back to haunt you, and that boils into two. And then when you have your license suspended, I was real lucky the first time my license was never suspended. So when you have your license suspended and you're driving on that, those fines just keep adding up and the penalties keep adding up. And eventually I spent 5 days in jail up in Riley County, Manhattan, Riley County Jail. And that was just about, that was last summer. And I'm finally legal to drive now, so I'm real happy about that. And I just want to make it my goal to make sure none of you are in my place, because you don't realize that drunk driving, yes, we're here today and we're doing the event this weekend to remember the people that we lost to drunk driving, and that is certainly the worst possible outcome. But there are other outcomes and possibilities that are still very negative, and that's what I'm here today to talk to you guys about, and I'll kind of share them with you during my presentation. So that's kind of who I am. That's really all I have for here. But I'm just going to take some questions if you guys have any. Well, to be honest, it feels worse now than it did then, because now every time I see a cop, like my heart rate just shoots up, skyrockets, because I've been stopped 10 times in the past 3 years. And it's crazy because, I never got stopped for having a tail light out or failing to signal for a turn. Never got stopped when I was legal to drive. But once I had my license suspended, I was getting stopped left and right. And it's like God or fate just telling me, wake up or karma. I guess we could call it karma. So it feels worse now, actually. But certainly when I was arrested the first time was different. As you'll hear in my speech, first time it was actually a wreck, a collision, and I was going about 80, 85 miles per hour down I-70. And that was just, I was very just happy to be alive at that point. And, at that point, I'd been in school, it was my third year of school. So I was still kind of under my parents' shelter, but kind of breaking away from it at that point. But they were paying for my car and they were paying my insurance. And so I was just thinking, man, my parents are going to be, I don't want to see my parents. Just, cut ties, run to Mexico, whatever. The second time, it was just, I can't believe this is happening again. And the third time I was arrested wasn't for DUI, but it was again for driving while suspended. And that was back up at K-State again. And at that point, that was different totally. Like, so all three situations were different. The third time I actually had my family with me. I have a wife and 2 kids. And so it was real different because then I was just like, okay, they're in a town they've never been in, and this is going to be a 6-hour process. And actually, it stole our entire day away. That was supposed to be real nice. We were supposed to go to the museum and have a Valentine's Day all as a family and everything. And, that was the third time is just anger at myself for getting in that position. And that, probably every time except the taillight failure was all just stupid decisions on my part. Drinking and driving, yeah, that's stupid, obviously. But failing to signal for a turn, making an illegal turn, not wearing my seatbelt was what got me arrested the third time. And I got busted for that twice, actually, in the end. And about the only thing I haven't been pulled over for was my cell phone. So I've been pulled over for everything else since then, and 3 times I've been arrested.
So that's all happened since you were arrested. Your license was suspended for DUI.
Oh yeah, yes, exactly. I mean,
So
no.
Once you're on your radar, you don't fly off of it to good things.
Oh, you don't get a you don't get off that radar very easily. I got very lucky my first time. For whatever reason, they never wrote me what I think was a pink slip at the time. Sometimes it's blue slip where they suspend your license. And basically, when you get arrested, or when you blow over the legal limit, or that time it was a blood test. Actually, they took my breathalyzer, and then they also took me in for a blood test. And what they do is they give you a pink or blue slip, and it says, hey, your license is, you have a temporary license. You can drive for 30 days pending this court outcome, essentially. And I didn't get that the first time. First time I walked out of jail and I had my license handed right back to me. I got very lucky. And
so they gave you a second chance.
Yes, they gave me and of all times when I should have had taken away, it was that time, because that was the wreck. And someone did go to the hospital for that, just for back pain. There was a passenger in the other truck, but I'll tell you more about that at the presentation.
Anybody else got a question?
Red shirt.
How old are your kids?
Okay, so I'm young. My wife is 10 years older, and they're hers from a previous marriage. They're about to turn 9 and 8. So.
And were you guys married when like all the DUI stuff happened?
We married about 5 months after the second DUI. So by that point I had been real. After the second DUI, if the first one doesn't wake you up, the second one will, or should, if you have any ounce of intelligence at all. And after that happened, I kind of got my life back together. I kind of quit the drinking, and I still took drinks every now and then, but certainly not drinking and driving. And I was taking a lot more rides with people just because I was just scared to drive at that point. Once you have an accident, and that wasn't my first accident, by the way, the DUI. I've been in a few others, not my fault. Also at high speeds, and I've had so much trouble, I just got scared to drive at some point. So I really cleaned up my act in a short period of time before we got married.
Were you guys dating before how long were you guys dating before you got married?
Oh my, that's a whole other book. That really is.
That's a whole different presentation.
Yeah, exactly. A few months. I met her 3 weeks after I got my second DUI, and so we were only married a few months, and we kind of eloped, and we did elope, and then that's what happened.
How is this getting the DUIs? How has it affected your social and love lives?
Socially and love life, again, a whole other book. So I was like a big outcast as a high school student. I grew up in Garden Plain, graduated from Garden Plain. And so, of course, there, if you don't play football, you don't do drugs, you don't drink, you're pretty much an outcast. At least that's how I looked at it. And I was a football manager and cameraman, and they got me a scholarship to K-State. I was really grateful, and they really made me feel part of the team. But I was bullied a lot, and I was socially outcast going into it. So when I went up to college, I became complete opposite instantly. And that was without drinking. You know, I was real involved. I was a student senator at K-State. Then when I transferred to KU, I was a student senator at KU. And but drinking really made me a whole different person. You know, when you're drinking, you are truly a whole different person. You know, they talk about, okay, either are you happy drunk or are you an angry drunk? I was real happy drunk and had a lot of good times, a lot of crazy times. And my love life, I was real, so that's kind of my social life. And since I quit, it didn't really change much, but I kind of got rid of all those people I was hanging out with because I just saw them making repeatedly bad decisions. And one in particular I was involved with twice. Once when she had a DUI and once when I had a DUI. And when I said, okay, we had 2 DUIs while we're together, something has to change. I kind of broke ties a little bit, and it's hard. But love life, you know, it didn't really impact me much. You know, I was always just real selective about what I did in my love life. I wasn't, you know, a player or whatever you want to call it. And 2 of my best friends have have STDs, and one has AIDS, and one has another disease. So I was really always playing careful in my love life, and I didn't let alcohol affect those decision-making processes.
Why did you decide to drink and drive? I mean, like, was it pure apathy, or was it
Decided what?
drink and drive?
Well, and I'll get to that in a speech, but mainly you get drinking, and yeah, both times I got pulled over, I was barely over the legal limit, and maybe that had some impact because I still thought I could drive good, and I did, apparently, because I drove by plenty of cops, and actually I walked in a convenience store where there were a lot of cops when I got the first one, and walked by them, bought some stuff, walked out, drove on, because you get to this habit of thinking, okay, I'm good. I can do this. I mean, I only have to go a block or a mile, whatever. In my case, 100 miles. But I did it, you know, and I shouldn't have, because it got me in a lot of trouble. But you don't make good decisions when you're drinking and driving. You don't, or when you're drinking it. Period. And forget the driving. If you're drinking, you're not going to make good decisions, and you think you're capable of more than you are. You think you're Superman. And also another part of it is, you know, honestly, a lot of it is ego. You don't want to ask someone to give you a ride. You don't want to call a taxi. You know, you want your car there in the morning because you have to go to work. You know, those kind of factors play into it a lot too. They're not right either. That's incorrect thinking too. In the back.
At what point, like, in that amount of time did you decide that you wanted to change?
At what point in that year and a half?
Well, yes, since all of that happened.
Oh, since all that happened?
Yeah.
When I decided to change was actually when my best friend died, and I'm hesitant to mention that in this speech, but I owe it to him to mention him, because he wasn't actually, his death had no relation at all to alcohol, but when he died at age, he was almost 22, it was a month from his 22nd birthday, and when he died, it was purely by accident. You know, he was cleaning his gun, and there was a round still in the chamber, and it just blew my mind because he was the most careful guy in the world, so meticulous. But when his life was taken so young, at such a young age, I said, listen, this is a guy that lived his life perfectly correct. He deserves to still be alive. I've made these mistakes. Why am I still here? You go through that whole depression, sort of, those stages. And so I said, well, I'm here for a purpose, and I owe it to him because he's not able to live life, and he would have lived it great. So I owe it to him to live my life better. And that's kind of an unusual way of thinking, I guess, or changing my life maybe, but that's really what did it. And that happened, his death happened, barely a month after my second DUI. So I went through a 3-month time span where I was actually disowned from my family, kicked out from my house before the second DUI for a different incident. And my grandmother passed away next month. Then next month I had DUI, and the month after my best friend passed away. So that 4-month time span, those 4 events really just crushed me and destroyed me. And I had to do something to rebuild myself, and I had to find something to do with my life.
So what are some of the hardships you find now that you're able to drive now?
Yes, I'm able to drive
What are
to,
some of the hardships, what are some of the obstacles that you feel like you could come along that are maybe setting you back where you think you may need to be further in your life or should be further at this point?
what kind of obstacles relate to the drinking and driving, or just in general?
To your arrest, the drinking and driving, the decisions that you made.
Okay, what
Yeah.
kind of obstacles am
How
I
are you-
facing?
Yeah, I mean, there's some short-term obstacles
Oh.
for that, and then there's some long-term
There's some permanent
obstacles.
ones.
Yeah.
To be honest,
What are those?
what
The permanent ones?
the
that you-
biggest obstacle, in my opinion, to me, what really gets me, and it's real personal right now because my brother's joining the Air Force. Actually, he ships out to basic training on May 8th. I wanted to do that. I love learning languages. I wanted to become an intelligence agent. The first DUI didn't kill me on that one, but it certainly made it more difficult, and especially as they're decreasing our military size and scope. It could have got me in with 1 DUI. Second one, pretty much no. It would take a waiver from the Central Command, pretty much, is what they told me. And because I visited with them even as recently as a few months ago, because this is something I really wanted to do. And I didn't want to do it at the time of the DUI. That's the thing. At the time, I didn't know I wanted to do this. I had an inkling of, okay, this is an option always. I can get my degree and I can always use the military as an option. Not anymore. I only talked to them and they said, listen, you have 2 DUIs, you have all these traffic problems, there's no way we get waivers for all these things. So military is pretty much done. And even if I got my record expunged, if I got it cleaned, so like let's say you own a company and I apply to work at a company and you do a background check, none of that stuff comes up. But that doesn't apply for the government. That does not apply for the military or the state. So those options are limited. That's the biggest obstacle I have faced, I think, or will always face from that, and I can't overcome it. Employment, I'll talk about that in my speech too. Employment is the biggest obstacle in general because I had a great job opportunity in my former hometown of Houston, and I really wanted to move back. It's gonna be great. I was gonna have this great job, great salary. All right, great. And I had a call a few months after getting my degree, and some people don't even have interviews at all for years after they get their degree, at least in their job field. And I went through a first round interview, and went through a second round interview with like 5 different people. So in total, I saw probably 7 or 8 different people I interviewed with. Everything sounded great. They talked about, okay, which person in the room do you want to work for, what division? We talked numbers, pay, and everything. Came back to Kansas, and about a week and a half later, I was just told no, and no explanation given. And I bet 99% that it was because of DUIs in my background, because it had me.
Relate back to job.
What's that?
Relate back your job.
Will it affect your jobs? Like as you're working? No. I haven't seen any effect as I'm working. Certainly there can be that negative stigma where if your coworker or your boss finds out, okay, you have this in your past, if you've done